Unlock the shocking method to let the Holy Spirit remove everything not from God. Do this now. There it was, a flickering light in the dawn, illuminating a secret the world had long overlooked. Deep in the heart of a forgotten town, rumors whispered of an extraordinary power, a supernatural method that could unleash the Holy Spirit's wrath and cleanse a person from all that wasn't divine. The tales flowed. Some claimed it could banish their deepest fears, others swore it offered them a glimpse of heaven itself. But was it real? Bob, a worn-down mechanic, stumbled upon an ancient tome hidden behind the crumbling walls of the local church. The pages crinkled under his fingers, each word dripping with mystique and authority. "Command the darkness to leave," it proclaimed with a boldness that made his heart race. He read on, eyes widening in disbelief as strangers quietly filed in, drawn by the aura of the holy light and secrets that hung thick in the air, pressing down on their shoulders. As Bob's voice trembled in the silence, an electric charge filled the room. "Anything that isn't from God, leave this place," he shouted, calling forth the courage of 1,000 souls. Could it truly work? The crowd gasped, eyes darting with a mix of fear and fascination. The air thickened, heavy with uncomfortably familiar emotions. Dread and relief tangled together, creating an unbearable tension. What would happen next? Would they witness an angelic vision, or was something far darker waiting to be unleashed? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The vibration pulsed, and just then, the air exploded with a deafening silence, interrupted only by a distant, unearthly howl that echoed from the shadows. Eyes widened in horror as a dark figure slithered into view, cloaked in a haze that seemed to absorb the light. "You think you can control what you cannot understand?" it hissed, the words curling like smoke around them. Bob's heart lurched. Was this the darkness he called forth? Terror gripped him as he realized this was just the beginning. What would happen if he couldn't expel this malevolent force? The horror sat heavy, smothering hope like a wet blanket. But somewhere deep inside him, Bob felt a flicker of strength. Perhaps if he truly believed, the light could triumph over the shadows. But was that enough? The dark figure loomed, a gaping mouth twisted in a mocking grin. It smelled like burnt offerings and regret, as if the very essence of despair was harnessed in its presence. Bob's limbs trembled, but he forced himself to stand firm, pushing back against the wave of darkness that threatened to swallow the faint light around him. "Leave!" he shouted again, his own voice sounding foreign, a mere whisper against the overwhelming dread. Each word felt like a stone hurled at an avalanche. The crowd shivered collectively, their breath hitching as the figure remained unyielding, as though its very soul relished their fear. Around Bob, uncertainty twisted into desperation. A young woman cried out, "What is it? What does it want?" Panic flitted through the air, infecting the gathered souls as dread deepened, binding them in a web of terror. Bob's heart raced, the fiery pulse of hope fighting against the icy grip of disbelief. Was this thing really an embodiment of the darkness he sought to expel? "Focus on the light," Bob shouted, his voice echoing off the cracked walls like a desperate prayer. He remembered the words in the tome command with true faith. The figure recoiled slightly at his command, its form rippling like smoke. It hissed again, the sound scraping at their nerves, piercing through the silence like a deadly whisper. "You think you can banish me? I am here because you invited me. You harbor doubts, fears, desires that keep you bound." His heart sank as its words sliced through him. Bob had whispered his insecurities into the shadows for too long. This thing was the physical manifestation of every anxious thought he'd ever harbored, every regret that had cluttered his mind. If it was here because of him, would he be the one to send it back? No. He shouted, rallying against the suffocating despair. I will not be bound by you. The pulsating light began to flicker more brightly as he clenched the edges of the tome tighter. Holy Spirit, I command you to act. Cleanse this place. The air shifted, crackling with a growing intensity. Flickers of light danced as if responding to his plea, whispers of hope racing through the crowd. But the figure lunged forward, its form darkening like a storm over the horizon, casting shadows that stretched like claws toward him. You are weaker than you realize, Bob, it sneered, voice a chilling symphony of his own insecurities. Suddenly, the crowd surged, a mix of curiosity and terror driving them forward. We believe in you. Someone shouted. We're with you. There was raw determination in their voices, the kind that buoyed Bob's wavering spirit. Their eyes shone with hope, drawing strength from his own struggle. Together. Bob called out, and for the first time, he didn't feel alone. Together we can drive it out. Let the light reign. As the combined voices surged, the dark figure began to writhe and twist, its form destabilizing against the increasing intensity of their collective faith. Light burst forth like fireworks, ripping through the shadows, pulling them apart piece by piece. Screams of rage and pain filled the air as the darkness fought against the surge of light, but the tide was turning. Yet, just when victory seemed to be within reach, a bone-chilling roar erupted from the figure, filling the room with a palpable terror. You think you've won? This is just the beginning. The shadows writhed violently, as if resisting one last desperate stand. Bob felt a shiver travel down his spine. This was no mere skirmish, they had stirred something ancient and powerful. Would this be the last they'd see of the darkness, or had they merely ignited a greater evil? As he stared into the swirling chaos, uncertainty loomed. What darkness awaited them next? The darkness roiled and seethed, and Bob felt the ground beneath him tremble. The air grew thick with fear, a tangible weight pressing down on his chest, pinching his breath. Around him, the once brave faces of the crowd turned to masks of terror, fear flickering in their eyes as they processed the reality before them. The dark figure contorted, twisting into shapes that morphed between the grotesque and the familiar, as if taunting them with their own hidden demons. Run! Someone shouted, and a wave of panic surged through the assembly. People stumbled backward, the brave-hearted solidarity crumbling beneath the pressure of raw instinct. Bob's heart raced, pounding fiercely against his ribs. No! We have to stay united. He cried, desperation clawing at his throat. Stay with me. He pleaded, trying to hold their gaze, but the figure, a twisting mass of darkness and despair, cast an impenetrable shadow that snuffed out the light of their collective hope. Together. Bob urged, raising the tome high, feeling its weight a lifeline to sanity in the sea of chaos. The power within felt alive, tingling against his fingertips. We can drive it back. Light will triumph. The figure paused, a flicker of confusion passing across its features, perhaps sensing the surge of defiance bubbling within the crowd. Strengthened by his words, voices echoed, cries of support melding into an anthem of hope. With a burst of confidence, Bob recited the verse he had memorized, words spilling from his lips like fire. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. At that moment, the air crackled again, the hum of energy swirling around them like a furious storm. The light intensified, clashing against the shadows, illuminating the trembling figures before him. The crowd's fear began to ebb away as their voices rose higher, shouting affirmations in unison, a choir of courage battling against despair. Yet with every shout, the figure responded with venomous rage. Foolish mortals! You think this will end my reign? You've only opened the doorway wider. Its screech pierced through their cries, a sound that rattled the very foundation, setting his teeth on edge. Bob's heart twisted. Doubts trickled in, had they unleashed a more sinister force? Was this merely the first act in a deeper, more horrifying play? Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to shake violently. Cracks spiderweb through the old cement, light flickering dangerously. The figure loomed larger, a monstrous silhouette against the vibrant glow surrounding Bob. You cannot fight what you have summoned. It thrives on your fears. No. Bob roared, focusing every ounce of willpower he could muster. You don't own us. You don't own me. The crowd echoed him. You don't own us. They shouted back, defiance rising in their voices once more, swallowing the doubt that clung to the edges of their hearts. Bob drew in a deep breath, the weight of the moment hanging heavy. They had to banish this thing together, but just as it seemed they had regained the upper hand, the ground heaved violently. Boom! The sound erupted, and as if the world itself was angry, the walls trembled, dust raining down like a funeral shroud. A blinding flash lit the room, momentarily casting away the darkness. But in that instant, an unsettling realization dawned. The figure wasn't just a manifestation of their fears, it had started expanding, gathering strength from the very chaos they summoned. And then, almost as if the shadows themselves were laughing, the silhouette stretched and twisted, merging with the very fabric of the room. Bob sensed a deeper evil lurking, far beyond what he had anticipated. Heart racing, he realized it wasn't just their fight anymore. What awaited them outside the realm of the darkness, unbeknownst to them all, felt far more horrifying. What have we done? He whispered, dread curling around his spine. But it was a question that needed an answer, and fast. Would they discover a way to wrestle control back, or uncover a darkness they would never be prepared to face? The shadows beckoned. And a haunting echo called for him, a truth not yet revealed. What awaited them next could be the greatest terror of all. The figure swelled, towering like a dark storm cloud, and Bob could feel the weight of despair settling on his shoulders. The air turned electric, every whisper of wind a warning, every crack in the ground a promise of devastation. He felt small, a mere flicker of light in an infinite void. Stay focused. He shouted to the crowd, trying to rally them against the impending doom. Their faces flickered with a mixed blend of fear and determination, but doubt crept into their expressions like a virus. We have to show our courage. As Bob spoke, he fought to hold the tome steady, its pages fluttering violently as if desperate to escape. The words etched within it pulsed with an ancient energy, but was it enough to hold off the darkness that warped the space around them? A young woman beside him, her eyes wide with terror, clutched her arms around herself. What if we're already lost? She stammered, encased in a shroud of dread. No. We're not lost. Bob replied, a lurch of fear gripping his heart. We summon hope, not despair. Together. But the creature cackled, its voice sinister and haunting, rising above the cries echoing around them. Your hope is as fragile as glass. I will crush you beneath my heel. It lunged, dark tendrils reaching out like claws, scraping the air, ready to snatch the souls of those who faltered. Bob! Someone screamed. He turned just in time to see the ground swallow his friend, pulling him down into darkness. The crowd gasped in horror, a wave of panic washing over them as they realized that the shadows were alive, hungry. Focus. Keep chanting. Bob urged, holding the tome closer, channeling all his strength into reciting the verses. The power inside flickered but felt intangible, as though reciting the words wasn't enough. Suddenly, the walls hissed as the darkness pressed in, a tangible force seemingly sentient, attempting to devour their light. Bob felt sweat trickle down his back. He raised his voice, pushing against the encroaching waves of terror, each word tumbling out faster, desperate to be heard. We are the bearers of light. We defy you. Fingers of dark smoke lashed out, digging into the crowd, and Bob felt its coldness seep into his bones. He could see the faces of friends twisted in agony. A part of him screamed to flee, yet he anchored himself in place, and then, just as things seemed most dire, something shifted. A pulse beneath their feet reverberated, a beat that seemed to echo with his words. The crevices in the ground glimmered faintly in response, as if the very earth was laden with the remnants of past hopes. Together, we are more than our fears. He intensified the chant, sheer willpower igniting a flicker of luminosity. It outshone the surrounding darkness. Light will triumph. The dark figure hesitated, as if caught off guard by their tenacity. Bob sensed a faint flicker of change, an opening, a possibility. Was his belief strong enough to force it back? But just as he felt the tide turning, the ground erupted. Rent lips split the earth wide, and a cacophony of tormented screams arose, drowning out their chants. Shadows erupted with vengeful fury, trying to engulf them all. Bob! A hoarse shout broke through the chaos. His heart dropped. It was the voice of a loved one trapped in the darkness. Fear clutched at his throat, sharp and unyielding. "I'm coming!" he cried, rushing forward into the void. Yet as he moved, he felt the warmth of the crowd ripple behind him, a tether of unity pulling him back, an unbroken bond tethered to hope. Trapped between the light and dark, he faced a choice: plunge deeper into the abyss to save someone dear, or let that fear entrap them all. The darkness beckoned, and inside it, a lethal whisper promised power beyond imagination. Would he dare step into the blackness to unearth the light hidden inside? Would he risk everything he held dear for a chance to banish the horrific force before them? The choice loomed silently, and the shadows stirred, hungry for his decision. Bob stood frozen, caught between two worlds, the ravenous darkness and the flickering light of hope. Each second felt like a lifetime, the weight of the moment crashing down with a force that made his chest tighten. He could feel the tug of the crowd behind him, their collective fear pulling at the edges of his resolve. "Bob!" The voice cried out again, more desperate this time, echoing in his mind like an alarm bell. The shadows writhed, a living tapestry of despair that yearned for flesh, for souls. The command to step forward and rescue that voice clashed violently with the fear lurking in his gut. What if he stepped into that darkness and was lost forever? His heart raced. Bob could almost hear the whispers of the dark figure, mocking him, daring him. "You're weak. You'll fall. You'll never return." "No!" he shouted defiantly, the word bursting from him like a dam breaking. "I will not give in." The tome vibrated in his hands, its pages rustling fiercely as if it could sense the stakes. Closer and closer, that spine-tingling darkness slithered, but as Bob focused, the air around him sizzled with a strange energy. With quiet resolve, he took a step forward, and the crowd collectively gasped, hands reaching out, faces stricken with dread. "Bob, don't!" the young woman cried, her voice laced with tears. "I have to." He shot back, feeling a rush of adrenaline. The darkness responded, tendrils curling around him like serpents, threatening to drag him down into a pit of despair. But he focused on the voice that had called out. He couldn't betray that bond, couldn't be paralyzed by fear. Deep within, a flicker of something warm ignited. Memories rushed through him, laughter, love, moments shared. They anchored him, piercing through the thick fog of doubt. Light will triumph. The chant surged again, powerful and resonating, fueled by those memories, overcoming the dread that sought to devour him. He could see the dark figure wavering, its edges blurring slightly as if the light might just be enough to disperse its clutches. "Please help me," the voice pleaded again, breaking through the maelstrom. Bob felt his heart clench. He had to act now. Gripping the tome like a lifeline, he plunged deeper into the shadows, focusing on the light radiating from within. Within the darkness, something shifted. A memory floated by, laughter shared during a summer day. Bob reached for it, grasping onto that fleeting moment. And suddenly, he was not alone. The energy of the crowd surged beside him, their collective will fueling his own. The air crackled, charged with their joint force. "Together!" he cried, and in that instant, a blinding light burst forth from the tome, illuminating the surrounding darkness like a dawn breaking. "No!" the dark figure shrieked, agony flooding its voice. "You will not deny me. Bob could feel the pull of the darkness trying to claw back, still thrumming with angry energy as it writhed around him. The light expanded, filling every crevice, every shadow, and in the face of that overwhelming luminescence, doubt began to collapse into sheer determination. But as he pressed forward, a chilling realization struck him: the shadows were not just hunting to consume, they were trying to reveal something hidden, a truth cloaked in their horrific depths. His heart raced further. What lay within that blackness? What was it that the void sought to expose? "Hold the light!" he heard someone shout. But as Bob stood ready, prepared to battle for both love and truth, the darkness pulsed, revealing a glimmer of shape, something shifting just beneath the surface that it wasn't over yet. Something was coming, something far more terrifying than he had ever imagined. Did he dare to uncover the truth behind the shadows? A breath fogged the air as silence fell, and the world paused, waiting for his next move. Bob's pulse thundered in his ears as the darkness pulsed, a wave rippling through the air. The glimmer grew more distinct, coalescing into a figure that seemed half-formed and shrouded in gnashing shadows. He squinted, straining to make sense of the shape, feeling the crowd's energy simmering around him. Bob had breathed, the voice slithering through the oppressive atmosphere. It was familiar yet distorted, sending an icy shiver down his spine. A name hung in the air, one that sent his mind racing, but he couldn't dwell on it. Focus was essential. "I'm coming!" he shouted, pushing against the dark tendrils that reached hungrily for him, the flickering light from the tome illuminating his path. Fueled by the strength of his memories, he surged forward, determined to uncover the truth that lay within the shadow's grasp. "Bob! You have to find me!" the voice implored again, desperation lacing each syllable. It wrapped around him, more of a lifeline than a call to danger. Then, without warning, the darkness screeched. "You dare challenge the void?" The dark figure coalesced, its form shifting abruptly into something almost tangible, as if it had decided to unveil its true face. The light from the tome flickered uncertainly, and Bob clenched his jaw. "You can't have them!" he cried defiantly at the figure, images of smiles, laughter, community swimming in his heart. The shape twisted, a semblance of a human form appearing as if it had clawed its way from an abyss. A face emerged, tormented and sorrowful yet eerily familiar. Like shards of glass, memories of a lost friend pierced through him. "Sarah. Why? Why did you leave?" Bob felt the words swell within, a mixture of anger and pain, grappling with the truth he never wanted to confront. "You're alive. I can save you." "No." Sarah's voice echoed, trembling. "Don't listen to it. It's lying." The shadows around her wriggled closer, obscuring the rest of her features, twisting into a grotesque parody of her essence. Bob's chest tightened. How many times had they shared secrets, laughed together? Was this a trick? Suddenly, the air shifted again. The shadows churned violently, threatening to swallow the light whole. The whispers escalated into chaos, drowning out the pleas. "You're weak. You've come all this way for nothing." "No!" he shouted again, grounding himself in the belief that love could pierce through the dark. He could feel the crowd rallying behind him, their energy intertwining with his own resolve. Together. But then reality blurred. Memories collided ferociously, flashes of laughter mingled with visions of despair. Bob stumbled, caught off balance. The darkness seized that moment, and tendrils lashed out toward him, wrapping tight like a vice. "Feel the truth of your failures." It spat, clawing into his soul. Images spiraled before him, each a thread in the tapestry of light and shadow. But as he grappled with the darkness, an unlikely spark ignited within him. "Light will triumph," he bellowed, shoving the tome higher, drawing in breath. Beaten but not broken, the glow swelled, surrounding him in a cocoon of warmth. But the dark figure would not relent. A cold laugh erupted from its depths. "The truth you uncover will not save you, Bob. It will consume you." Sweat dripped down his brow. The pressure heightened, the ground shuddered beneath his feet. All of it was spiraling closer to a climax he couldn't fully grasp. And then there it was once more, a dread whisper slicing through the tumult. "You still don't understand what you're fighting for." As the shadows roared in defiance, Bob felt the tremor of time's edge. Did he truly want to unlock what lay hidden? Was the truth he sought worth the risk? With that, darkness surged forward, demanding an answer as the light flickered precariously. What awaited him in that harrowing truth? Bob, the echo of the voice now sounded tinged with resolve but veiled behind despair. "The choice is yours, choose wisely." A chill ran down his spine, the swirling shadows beckoning, promising revelations that could destroy him or set him free. The moment had come to decide. Would he dare uncover the secret lying in wait, or would the darkness snatch him away forever? Bob's heart raced as he struggled against the overwhelming shadows. They tightened around him like a cloak of despair, a suffocating grip that restrained both his body and spirit. The voice, though still pleading, began to fray at the edges, morphing into a twisted laugh that echoed through the void. "Do you feel it, Bob?" the darkness hissed, the shadows swirling like a storm. "The weight of your choices? Every misstep, every regret, they're all coming to collect." He grit his teeth, refusing to back down. "I will not be your puppet." But even as he said it, doubts wormed their way into his mind, clawing at the foundation of his resolve. Were Sarah's haunted eyes just another ruse? Could he truly save her from this nightmare? The ethereal light from the tome flickered dangerously. It was feeding off his fear, absorbing his energy like a sponge. He had to act now, before he lost everything. Summoning every ounce of strength, he pushed the light toward the dark figure. "Your shadows have no power over me." A gash of white-hot light sliced through the gloom, illuminating the area momentarily. The dark figure recoiled, its form writhing in agony. For an instant, Bob saw the truth of his friend's face, naked and unmasked. Fear, desperation, and love intermingled within her gaze. "Help me!" Sarah shouted, her voice breaking through the tumult. Her form flickered in and out, the shadows struggling to keep her from him. "I will," he shouted back, stepping further into the light, even as the darkness lashed out, clawing at him with lingering tendrils, trying to drag him back. "I'll find you, Sarah." But then, the laughter returned, deeper and sinister. "You think shining light will unveil the truth? The truth is a weapon, Bob. Confront it, and it will bury you." He staggered, the neck of fear tightening around his throat. The creeping shadows whispered darkest secrets, memories that he had buried deep from years ago. Faces scrambled in frantic clarity, his parents' disappointment, the friend he betrayed, the one person he failed to protect. Each memory a hot brand on his heart, wrenching him between the past and the present. "Bob." The voice faltered, merging into the chorus of anguish that surrounded him. "Don't let it pull you down. Fight." With a primal roar, Bob rallied his strength yet again, flooding the dark with bright memories, instead those golden moments, laughter shared with Sarah, their dreams dancing in colors once bright. He envisioned her smile, the warmth of her hand in his. "Together." He yelled, defiance echoing against his fears. The tome flared, and a shaft of brilliant light exploded outward, illuminating the room. It was blinding, a searing white that expelled the shadows like dust on a sunbeam. The darkness shrieked, recoiling as if scalded. But then a new sound, a crackling from within the light, a rending that made Bob's heart race faster than ever. The tome trembled violently in his grip. "No!" The energy surged within him, pulsating like a living thing, demanding to be unleashed. "Enough of this, Bob," the shadows shrieked in fury, their voice rising to a crescendo. "You may want light, but darkness knows your heart." Suddenly, the room shifted again. Altering between light and dark, Bob felt like he was losing his grip on reality. The shadows coiled and twisted, warping around him like vines intent on constriction. He was standing on the edge of a precipice, the world dancing around him, and everything began to fall away. Make your choice. The echo of Sarah's voice called out, filled with urgency and resolve. You can't stay in both places. Breath caught in his throat, and he knew. He had to choose the boundless light or the consuming dark. And in that instant, when clarity struck like lightning, Bob realized the truth he had been grappling with all along: I will not let fear define me. As that resolve solidified, a shimmering portal opened behind Sarah, its light serene and inviting. She reached out, her shoulders releasing the weight of darkness, but the ground beneath Bob trembled violently, threatening to tear him from his grasp. Bob! No! Sarah screamed as the shadows lunged once more. Then, the final confrontation loomed near. Would he choose to leap toward that engulfing light or stand half-shrouded in darkness, haunted by every choice he had ever made? Time froze, and in that breathless moment before the plunge, all he could think was, what if this is the last choice I ever have to make? As the dark figure screamed his name, a chilling finality loomed. Would he dare step forward, or would he remain a prisoner of his own fears? The ground beneath Bob's feet began to quake, the chaotic swirl of light and dark spiraling around him like a tempest. The shadows clawed at him with raw desperation, their icy fingers wrapping around his ankles, drag him back from the gaping portal of light. Sarah's face flickered in and out of focus, her expression shifting from determination to horror. Bob! You have to choose. Her voice broke through the cacophony, sounding distant yet immediate, a siren call that filled him with both courage and despair. Just hold on. He shouted, teeth bared, determined to push through the vortex of darkness. Despite the gnawing fear clawing at his core, he felt a surge of resolve heating his blood. He couldn't let them win. Not now. With a sudden burst of energy, he lunged toward the portal behind Sarah. The light radiated warmth, a soothing balm against the frigid darkness trying to engulf him. He felt electrified, the weight of all that held him back falling away. At that moment, he was more than Bob, he was hope, love, and the promise of freedom. But then, a howl erupted from the shadows, a sound so terrible it shook him to the bone. You think you can escape us? The dark figure surged forward, swirling like a storm, its laughter dripping with malice. You can't outrun what lies within. Bob felt the shadows pulling at him fiercely, reminding him of every failure he'd ever known. Guilt flared like flames inside him, igniting a swell of doubt. What if he wasn't strong enough to face what was lurking inside? Sarah! He yelled, desperation spilling from him like a cascade of fear. Help me. I don't know if I can do this alone. Together, Bob. We can do this together. Her voice was unwavering, a light in the thickening fog. Summoning every ounce of will, he focused on her, not on their dark surroundings. He imagined the moment they had first met, her laughter like a sunbeam, banishing misery. The memory helped him push back against the tide of darkness. At that instant, he lunged toward the portal again, arms reaching out, the yearning to be free consuming him. The shadows writhed violently, seeking to ensnare him, but Bob felt something shift. A strange warmth radiated from the tome still clutched in his hands. In an explosive burst, he opened his mouth to speak, the tome responding to his defiance. I choose love. I choose light. With those words, an incandescent beam poured from the tome, wrapping around him like an embrace. It consumed the shadows, dissolving them into a swirl of vapor, their agonized wails fading into oblivion. Bob! Sarah's voice pierced through the light, urging him onwards. Jump! He could see her now, fully, the shadows behind her dissipating. The portal thrummed with life, a sanctuary inviting him in. The dark figure hissed, rage unfurling like a deadly bloom. This is not over. You will face your reckoning. Bob took a deep breath, heart hammering as he stared at the shimmering horizon beyond the doorway. I am unbreakable, he declared, and with a fierce yell, he jumped forward into the light. As he crossed the threshold, a blinding flash enveloped him, making everything else vanish: the booze, the howls, the darkness that had haunted him for too long. But just as he began to feel free, a chilling thought pierced through the brightness. What if the light held a darkness even more profound than he had just escaped? The thought clung to him like a shadow as he fell deeper into the embrace of the light. What awaited him on the other side? Light engulfed Bob, a silken cocoon wrapping around him. For a moment, he felt weightless, as if every burden had been cast aside. But as he settled within this new realm, the sensations began to shift. The light, once warm, now pulsed with a strange intensity. It felt alive, throbbing like a heartbeat, in tune with the fears he thought he'd escaped. "Bob?" A voice echoed within the brightness, soft but strong. It was Sarah, yet it sounded distant and warped, as if she were trapped on the other side of thick glass. "Bob, can you hear me?" Panic welled up again. "I'm here." "Where are you?" He reached out, but the light rippled, shimmering like waves in a vast ocean. "Listen. You need to find the center of this light. It's the only way to break free." Her urgency clawed at him. But what did she mean? The sheer brilliance around him made visibility nearly impossible. Was there a center? Bob felt his heartbeat quicken, the familiar grip of dread tightening around his chest. What if it's a trap? He shouted, panic lacing his voice. What if this is just another way for the darkness to get to me? Trust what you feel. Sarah replied, her voice a tether pulling him forward. Trust yourself. With her words echoing around him, he forced his mind back to the feelings that had guided him before. The warmth of their shared laughter, the way her smile had sparked something deep within him, light overflowing even in the darkest of times. Determination surged within him. He closed his eyes and concentrated, allowing memories to wash over him. He envisioned smashing through barriers, breaking down walls, unearthing every ounce of courage he had left. The tome still clasped in his hands began to pulsate with energy, as if it recognized his resolve. Each beat of his heart synced with the tome's rhythm. "I won't to let fear define me," he shouted into the light. "I choose to fight." The light dimmed momentarily, and in that instant, he caught a glimpse of something, a figure, an outline standing amidst the brightness. It shifted, twisted, and transformed, coiling away like smoke. With a surge of clarity, Bob darted toward it, each step as forceful as a crashing wave. The figure solidified into a gaunt, shadowy form. "You think you can escape? I am your essence." It snarled, voice dripping with venom. "You cannot run from yourself." "No!" Bob yelled, navigating through the luminescent haze. "I'll not be held captive by my past." Drawing on the light within him, he thrust the tome forward, directing its energy at the haunting silhouette. It screeched, a spine-chilling sound that coursed through the air like ice. The intensity of the light swelled, climbing to a fever pitch. Bob felt the pull of shadows straining against the brilliant force he unleashed. For a fleeting moment, he could see Sarah's silhouette again, her eyes wide with hope. "Keep going, Bob. You're almost there." Driven by her encouragement, the light burst forth, attempting to swallow the shadow whole. It flickered, shrieked again, and began to fragment. The world around him splintered like glass, shards of brilliance flying in every direction. But just as he thought he would break free, a voice dark, malevolent whispered through the chaos, "You think you can banish me? You will always be haunted by your choices. Not if I choose otherwise." Bob shouted back, defiance ringing clear. Then, the blinding energy enveloped him completely, spiraling him into a void. As everything faded, he felt himself slipping, questions clawing at his mind. What would remain when the light extinguished? What truths awaited him in this new existence? The darkness was drawing closer, and Bob strained to hold on to his light. But as the whispers grew louder, he couldn't shake the feeling that this battle was far from over. Even within the light, shadows lurked, waiting for their chance. Where would they lead him next? As the blinding light consumed him, Bob felt a surge of clarity. The shadows he had battled for so long were not merely external forces, they were the reflection of his deepest fears, regret, and past mistakes. Every inhale filled him with fresh determination as he landed in a new realm, a vibrant landscape brimming with brilliant colors and a warmth that wrapped around him like a familiar embrace. "Bob." Sarah's voice pierced through the veil, sweet and urgent. "You made it." Her silhouette emerged, radiant and clear, bathed in the soft glow of the landscape. Bob's heart swelled at the sight of her, but questions tumbled in his mind. "Where are we? Is this real?" "It's as real as the courage inside you," she replied, stepping closer, her smile reassuring. "This place reflects the light you chose. It's a sanctuary created by your love, hope, and all the connections you hold dear. But you must still confront what lies beneath." A wave of unease washed over him. "What do you mean?" His throat tightened, a knot of anxiety forming. "The darkness hasn't vanished. It's a part of you, Bob. But it's also what you can choose to transform." Her eyes sparkled, a blend of challenge and faith lighting her features. "You need to face it not with fear, but with love." Suddenly, shadows erupted from the edges of the landscape, twisting and curling like smoke eager to engulf him. Bob's heart raced. "No. Not again." He took a step back, but Sarah reached for him, her hand steady and warm. "Remember, you're not alone." Together, they stood against the encroaching darkness, grounding themselves in the memories of their shared joys. Bob focused on the laughter, the moments that had made him feel alive, and the love that had bound them together. "We can do this, Sarah," he urged, his resolve faltering only slightly. The shadows writhed closer, taunting with whispers that dug deep. "You think you can escape us? You carry us in your heart. You cannot deny the pain." "I won't deny it," Bob shouted, voice strong and unwavering. "But it does not define me." He clasped the tome tightly, its power thrumming in response to his determination. Light burst forth with renewed energy, encasing him and Sarah in a protective cocoon. The darkness recoiled, its grotesque fingers twisting, as if trying to shield itself from the very essence of hope. "You cannot win, Bob. You will always return to me. I am your greatest fear." "Then let us meet face to face," Bob shouted, feeling a rush of adrenaline. "I won't run anymore." As he stepped forward into the dark mass, time seemed to stop. Memories flashed before him, failure, pain, loss, each shaped into the shadows that crept at the corners of his mind. "No more," he declared, taking a deep breath as the light around him intensified. "I choose to fight." With each step closer, the shadow solidified into a figured image, the faces of those he had hurt, missed, and feared. "You cannot escape your past." They echoed, blending seamlessly into one voice, mocking and tormenting him. "I'm not trying to escape anymore," Bob yelled, his heart racing. "I'm here to confront you." With everything he had, he thrust the tome forward. Light. Purification. The tome blazed brilliantly, and the shadows shrieked in agony, peeling away like layers of burnt paper. The figure before him twisted, its dark mask faltering as the warmth of light seeped in, but as the tendrils began to dissolve, one lingering shadow remained, the manifestation of his greatest regret, not saving Sarah when he could have. Doubt reared its head again, focusing the darkness within the void of his heart. "You see? You failed then, and you'll fail again." "No." The roar of defiance erupted from his chest. "I refuse to let you control me. Sarah deserves better." Fueled by his love and memories, Bob closed his eyes and delved deep into his heart. The profound connection he felt for her washed over him, igniting a flame that outshone the encroaching darkness. "You will not win." A brilliant wave of light exploded from him, blasting through the shadows fiercely. With a final scream of desperation, the darkness shattered like glass, taking with it the screams and shadows, evaporating into nothingness as Bob stood firm in the brilliance. The air thickened with silence before bursting into laughter and joy as colors swirled around them. "Bob! You did it!" Sarah cheered, rushing into his embrace. The warmth of her presence filled him entirely. It wasn't just escape, it was victory over the darkness that had tried to claim him. As the land around them shimmered with vibrance, Bob could feel the essence of hope buzzing in the air. "What now?" he asked tentatively, fear creeping in. "This is only the beginning," she replied, a smile playing on her lips. "The light you carry must shine on, help others find what you discovered. Share your journey, bring love where there is fear." With renewed purpose, Bob nodded, determination knitting his brow. "Together, we can bring forth more light. I can help others fight their shadows." Hand in hand, they stepped forward into the unknown, not as mere survivors, but as warriors forged by their pasts, ready to spread the light and love they had uncovered. The shadows still held whispers of fear, but together, they had witnessed the truth. Love wouldn't shy away from darkness, but would courageously face it, transforming despair into hope. This was the moment to rise, to share their journey. You need to subscribe now, if you want to stay updated on more astounding stories like this one. Smash that like button right now to help us reach others. Flood the comments, share your thoughts on this transformative tale and your theories about what happens next. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know they can conquer their darkness too. The journey is just beginning.